Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is the 2nd of October and I have just finished my first read of the month, which was the audiobook for Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Oh my days, I freaking loved this book. So, it's been all over the Booktube community, not just Booktube but Bookstagram and Book Twitter as well. I've seen so many people reading this book and people who've got like varied reading tastes and everyone seems to love it. I've not seen a review, I don't think, that's been less than 4 stars. Mine is going to be a 5-star because it's just so good. So we're following the first female president of the United States. We're following her son Alex and a fictionalized version of the Prince of Wales, a guy called Henry. And it's a love story, it's a romance, it's a hate to love romance. So I shouldn't be into this at all, don't read romance, not bothered about that. The cover looks like a really like fluffy contemporary, so I shouldn't have liked it, but it was unscribed, so I thought, well, I'll give it a listen, at least it'll be an easy listen and, you know, see what the fuss is about. Oh boy, there is so much more to this book than what I thought there was. So I am in love with Alex. I'm in love with a fictional character, which is not something that's happened to me for ages. I'm so sad the book is over because you get to know Alex and Henry and their family and their friends and their whole like circle so well. It feels like they're real people, and it's a similar experience I had when I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo earlier in the year, wherein they feel so real. I want to go and look up their Twitter pages and like follow them on Instagram and all that kind of stuff because they're just so real. I don't even think I've properly explained the story because I've just been gushing, but yeah, we're basically following them. So Alex's family goes to England for a royal wedding. At the royal wedding, he and Henry have an altercation that ends in basically an international situation. So they are then forced to pretend to be friends to the media and they start to get to know each other. And it's so funny. Alex is hilarious. Like, I laughed genuinely out loud in my car reading this book. Alex is funny and clever and witty. All the characters are. They're all so well-rounded. There's also discussions around, obviously, sexuality because at the start, Alex hasn't acknowledged yet that he's bisexual. So there's a lot of discussions of him kind of coming to terms. Is that really the phrase? But like understanding his sexuality. Henry is gay. And then there's obviously all of the issues around being a gay royal and what that means, and Alex's mum is running for re-election, so we get the American political system as well. There's just a lot. Yeah, this is a lot deeper than I thought this book was going to be, and I flipping loved it, and I would really recommend it. One tiny thing that kind of bugs me is that Henry's described as the Prince of Wales, but he's actually not. So in the UK, the Prince of Wales is the first in line to the throne, the first, going to be monarch after the current one. So in our country, in real life, Prince Charles is the Prince of Wales because he is the son of the Queen. He is first in line, and he will be the next king in all likelihood. Whereas Henry, so I thought Henry was going to be first in line to the throne. Henry's actually not. He's the grandson of the king. So in reality, he would actually be, although he would be a prince, he'd be a duke. So like the Duke of Sussex, which is what Harry is. Harry and Meghan are the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. So he would have been a duke, described as a duke rather than a prince. But it's just a tiny like little thing. But it did slightly trip me up when I was trying to work out who was who and what was what. But yes, overall, I have just talked for like 4 minutes about a contemporary romance. What is happening? But the hype is real. Read this book. It's the 8th of October and I finished my reread for the month, which was The Hunger Games. I listened to this on audiobook via Scribed and it's read by Tatiana Mosley, I hope I've said that right, Mansley maybe, who was the actress in Orphan Black, which if you've not watched, you need to immediately go and watch that because the first 2 seasons are amazing. It gets a little bit weird after that, but the first 2 seasons are awesome. And she's a perfect choice because in Orphan Black, not to give too many spoilers, but she plays a lot of parts. So she was great. She's, I think, my favourite ever audiobook narrator. In case you've been living under a rock, The Hunger Games is a dystopian YA fiction yeah, sorry, it's been a long day, my brain is a little bit scrambled, in which we follow a fictionalised version of America where every year 2 people between the ages of 12 and 18 are put into an arena to kill each other. 2 from each district, and there's 12 districts in the world, so there's 24 people every year and only 1 can live. That was a really scrambled synopsis for the Hunger Games, but you've probably read the book or seen the film or whatever by now, so yes. Following Katniss, she's one of the what they call tributes, and she goes into the Hunger Games because she volunteers in the place of her little sister. I've read the trilogy a couple of times through, once when it came out, once again on my writing degree, but I've not read them for, I don't know, a good like 10 years maybe, and I thoroughly enjoyed this reread, like enough that I now want to go and read the other 2 at some point. I will definitely listen to it on audiobook, although on Scribe they're currently showing as unavailable, which is really flipping annoying, but I'm going to keep an eye on it because the same narrator narrates the whole trilogy and she was just so good and it was such a great experience that I definitely want to listen to her read the rest of them if I can get hold of them. But yeah, I am going to give this a 5 out of 5 stars. I think the actual book, for me, my favourite one is the first one, and it's usually about a 4-star, but I think because the audiobook experience is so good, it's just going to have to be a 5-star. I can't give it anything less. It's the 11th of October and I have finished my 3rd read for the month, which is also my first physical read. I'm in my car again. I think I've been in my car for all the clips so far in this reading, is it a reading vlog or wrap up or whatever? I'm working loads and it's indicative in this video. I'm on day 5 of 6. I'm very tired. I've also whacked my head on one of the cupboards in my kitchen, which is why I have this giant red mark on my forehead. So great, my week is going really well. Anyway, you are here for my reading thoughts rather than me waffling on about how busy life is. So my first physical read of the month has been Wilder Girls by Rory Power. I was going to say Robin Power then, I'm so bad with names. First of all, can we just talk about this cover, because I am basically obsessed with it and I really want a print of it to put in a frame because I think it just looked really cool. So yeah, in love with the cover. It's actually not out here in the UK until February, but my lovely friend Jill lives over in the States and she noticed that I was really excited for this to come out and she messaged me and said, do you want me to send you a copy? So she very kindly did, along with some sweets and this really sweet postcard and a couple of bookmarks because she's just one of the loveliest people. She doesn't do Booktube, but she does have a Bookstagram, so I will leave her linked in the description. Her and I have very similar reading tastes. She's also got 2 really cute cats. She's a good time. Go and check her out. She's good people. Anyway, so she sent me a copy of this book and I was so excited for it to arrive. I saw it mentioned, I've seen it in a few different places, but I've seen Books and Nala mention it. Just push my glasses up my face. Mention it and say it's one of her favourite books of the year. She gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The basic premise is that we're following 2 different girls who are, along with the rest of their school, they're on an island off the coast, I think it's off the coast of Maine, so it's a real like Stephen King reference. There's quite a few Stephen King references in this, and it is a horror, YA horror sci-fi, I think. Anyway, there's a school off the coast of Maine where they are in quarantine because there is this thing called the pox, which has arrived 18 months ago and started killing people on the island. And they've basically been secluded, told to stay there, don't come off the island, we'll send you help. It's now 18 months later and that is all I can say because otherwise there'll be massive spoilers and I don't want to do that. I really thoroughly enjoyed this. I was hyped for it and I'm always nervous about hyped books because obviously if it doesn't live up to the hype, that's a bad time. I'm going to give this, I think, 4 out of 5. It's not quite perfect, but for a debut novel it has got blooming close. It's creepy, it's weird, there is bodily horror, so I'll just give a warning for that. We've got a queer romance in it as well. It was really tense. I was really hooked and like hacked off if I had to put it down to go to work or just, you know, generally do life stuff. So yeah, I would really definitely recommend this. It sort of reminded me of The Water Cure, which I think I read last year. I didn't love The Water Cure, but it's got a similar kind of stillness to it and tension building than that, and very similar themes as well. So yeah, 4 out of 5. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you, Jill, so much for sending it to me. You are a total sweetheart. And yeah, had a great time.
It's the 12th of October and my fourth read of the month has been Jodi Picoult's Small Great Things. I did actually finish this yesterday, but surprise surprise, I was in my car when I finished it and I didn't want another shot of me in a car reviewing a book. And by the time I got home from my 6 days, my brain was just completely melted and I couldn't think straight, let alone talk to a camera. So I'm reviewing it today. This book was recommended to me by my friend Hayley, and then this copy was gifted to me very kindly by my friend Kath from GoodReads. She gave it to me when we met up in Bristol back in the summer. I've read several Jodi Picoult books in the past, and I went through a phase where I read like a whole bunch of them together, and I think I read too many and then kind of got bored and wandered off, and I haven't read one since. So it's my first one in probably 3 or 4 years of hers that I've read. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I've given it 4 stars. We are following the story of a black nurse who is accused of killing the baby of 2 white supremacist parents, and we follow the nurse, we follow the father of the baby, and we also follow the white lawyer who is representing the nurse. And it's really quite tough to read in places. It's a reminder of white privilege and how white people should be using their privilege to help people that don't have the privileges that they have, and that you can do that in small ways, in just having conversations with other people and calling people out when you see them doing or saying racist things, and also the importance of giving people of colour or people with less privilege than you space to speak for themselves. And yeah, I found this really powerful and, like I said, quite tough to read in places, but really, really worth reading. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I've given it 4 stars. I've only given it 4 rather than 5 because I felt like the pace was a little bit slow in places. It's huge. I mean, if I hit somebody over the head with this, it would do them a serious injury. It's over 500 pages. I think probably you could take out 100 pages and the pace would have been a bit better. But yeah, overall, thoroughly enjoyed it and I'd very much recommend it.
It is the 18th of October, and wow, you can really hear my voice that it's first thing in the morning. It is 10 to 8, and I have just finished another book on my commute into work, which is Our House by Louise Cavendish. I listened to this on Scribed. I picked it up because I'd seen a couple of people that I know read it. It's marketed as a thriller, and I gave it 2 stars. So the synopsis is that we're following a woman called Fiona, or Fee, and she comes home one day and there are people moving into her house, and she is shocked by this because, as far as she was aware, her family, her and her 2 boys and her husband, live in this house. And it basically goes from there. There is another perspective, but I can't really talk about that without giving spoilers. And I thought it was going to be a psychological thriller, possibly with an unreliable narrator, which is one of my favourite thriller tropes. But actually, it's not a thriller. It's a domestic drama. And unfortunately, it's got one of the tropes that I dislike the most, which is horrible people doing horrible things to each other. I don't mind unlikable characters. I quite often have read like books from the perspective of serial killers and things like that. But when it's just ordinary people who are just awful, I can't connect at all. And I didn't have any sympathy for anyone in this story. And it was incredibly predictable. Like, I predicted absolutely everything before it happened. I listened to this in the car on my commute, and I would literally be like out loud, oh, this is how this connects up, and this is who this person is, and then the next couple of pages it would happen. I definitely would have DNF'd this if I had been physically reading it. I do find that audiobooks I'm less likely to DNF for some reason. I think maybe because I listen to books when I'm reading. I listen to books when I'm driving or walking somewhere. So I kind of don't mind just sort of having it on in the background. But yeah, this one I really didn't like, and I'm not sure I'd read anything else by the author because I don't think the writing was that great either. It was just very kind of book by numbers, and it's kind of boring. And like I said, I didn't like any of the characters, and the ending was really irritating. I was kind of hoping for some like twist at the end that would warrant the thriller classification. No, nothing, just an annoying end. So yeah, unfortunately I didn't like it, not for me. 2 stars, which is rare for me. Hopefully the next book I read will be better.
It is the 20th of October and I have just finished reading Thunderhead by Neal Shusterman, which I've buddy read with the lovely Gloria from Gloria and the Never Ending TBR. I have done a whole reading vlog for this book, which I will put up here. It was a bit of a fail in terms of reading vlog, but you do get my thoughts as we go along. And yeah, so I won't go into it too much here, but yeah, go and watch that video. I'm giving this 4 out of 5 stars. I'm definitely going to read The Toll, which is the final book in the trilogy. And I had a lovely time body reading with Gloria. So yeah, that's all I have to say for this one. It's still the 20th of October. I'm back in my very old filming space. If any of you have watched my very first videos, I used to film them just in my room. But yeah, I finished my next read for the month, which was The Chalkman by CJ Tudor. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I've given it 4 stars. The lovely Laura from Where Everyone Else Is Reading gifted it to me for my birthday. It's one that I'd wanted to read for ages, and then when she gifted it to me, it obviously bumped it up my TBR. And basically, it's been compared to Stranger Things and also It, and I can definitely see why. But one of the things that I really liked about this is that it's set in England, it's set in the UK, and we don't get that very much in kind of thrillers. It's quite often set in the States, and so it's just really nice to have one that's set in the UK because it makes it feel so familiar, which also obviously makes it feel more real and more immediate, which is lovely. And we're basically following 2 timelines. We're following a timeline in the 80s where a bunch of kids are friends riding around on their bikes, all that kind of stuff in the summer, and they start leaving chalkman symbols outside for each other so that they can like leave messages and say, oh, like meet me in the park, that kind of stuff. So they've been doing that for a while, and then a dead body turns up, and then we flash forward to current day. Obviously the kids have all grown up, and things then start happening and chalkmen start to appear. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. It's really evocative. I was born at the end of the 80s, so I was a 90s child really. But this was just really evocative of that time. Like I could like smell and taste and hear the world that they were in and the setting, and that was just brilliant. It's also really creepy. If you don't like bodily horror, this is not one for you because there's quite a bit of that. I thought the central mystery was good. There were lots of twists and turns. It was very creepy. I've only given it a 4 instead of a 5 because I did guess the twist. But I do read a lot of thrillers, so that's the downside for me, is I can quite often see where it's going, but I still really enjoyed it. Didn't stop my enjoyment of it at all. I will definitely be reading, this is her debut as well, which is also so impressive. I'll definitely be reading the next one, which I think is called The Taking of Annie Thorne, something like that. I'll definitely be picking up that one soon. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this. Laura, thank you so much for sending it to me. I really did enjoy it. And yeah, it's been a great read. It's the 26th of October and I finished my next read for the month, which is East of Croydon, Blundering through India and Southeast Asia by Sue Perkins. I did finish this yesterday, but it was Friday night, it was late, I looked rough, I was tired, I didn't want to talk about books on the internet, so we're filming this clip today. Also, you can probably hear the washing machine in the background and the boys are baking flapjacks downstairs, so there's probably loads of background noise, but this is as good as it's going to get today. So, Sue Perkins, for those that don't know, is a TV presenter here in the UK. She is probably best known as one half of Mel and Sue. They're kind of a comedy duo. She's also one of the original hosts of the Great British Bake Off. And then a few years ago, she just started doing travel programmes. I read her first book, Spectacles, last year, which is her autobiography. And this is basically a follow-up to that one. The premise of this is her trip, as it says on here, through India and Southeast Asia, where she went all the way up the Mekong River, and about basically her travels and the people that she met on the way. But it's also about her as a person. She suffers with anxiety and panic disorders, and yeah, I loved this. I'm going to give it 5 stars because I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it helps that she's obviously familiar to me. I mean, if you don't know her, then this won't have the same impact, but I could really hear her voice in my head as I was reading, and she's just really funny, and her observations on life are lovely, and it's actually, parts of it made me cry because she talks about like the death of her father and all that kind of stuff, and then also she obviously encounters real like grinding poverty with the people that she meets when she goes along, and she sees things that are really difficult to read about, but she does it in a way like she's very aware of her privilege, and she talks about that a lot, and about how she wants to help. And at the end of the book there's bits about how you can help the communities and things that she went into. And yeah, I thought it was wonderful. I keep resting my head on it. I'm really tired. And it's a big book to hold up. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I would really recommend it. If you're looking for an easy to read non-fiction, this is a really good one, because it is emotional, but it is also funny. And I kind of came away from it feeling the same I did with Spectacles, which was kind of like slightly emotionally wrung out, but hopeful, I think, is probably the note that comes at the end of this. And yeah, I would really recommend it. It's still 26th of October and I have finished my classic for the month, which is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I've also got the cat sleeping like just here, and you can see my November TBR in the background. Yeah, so I read Frankenstein. First of all, I really like this edition. There are some really awful covers for Frankenstein that I've seen in really horrible editions, but this one I thought was really cool. And I got it for £1 in a charity shop, so that was a win. And also it's got a nice spine, so it's going to look cool on my shelf, which, as we all know, is very important. This was a reread for me. I have read this book probably half a dozen times. I studied it for GCSE, A-level, and on both of my degrees. But this is the first time I've ever read it just for pleasure. I'm swapping arms. So yeah, and it's probably been at least 10 years since I've read it. So it's a story within a story within a story, because we start with Captain Walton, who is on an expedition to the Arctic, and he's writing letters to his sister, and then one day he sees this huge hulking man out on the ice, who disappears very rapidly, and then a couple of hours later they pull another man off the ice who's very weak and wasted, and that man is Victor Frankenstein, and he starts telling his story about his life and a creature that he creates and gives life to. And the story of Frankenstein is so well known, so I probably didn't need to explain all that, but I feel like Frankenstein is a story that gets really misunderstood and misunderstood is probably the word for it, because first of all, Frankenstein is the creator of the creature. He is not the creature. The creature he creates is never actually given a name, and it's not like wall-to-wall gore and horror the whole story. There are a couple of points, it is a gothic novel, and there are a couple of points that are genuinely like heart-stoppingly scary still, even to me, the amount of times that I've read this book. There are still a couple of points where it's like, oh, okay, sure, that got me. But it's actually more of a morality tale than anything else. It's about life and death. It's about, creating life. Who has the right to create life? What does it mean to be human? Why people go down certain paths, what can influence somebody. And I just really enjoyed it. I've given it 5 stars. It's not very long, it's 180 pages, the edition that I've got, so it's a very short little classic. I would really recommend it if you like gothic horror, or if you're looking for a way to get into classics. I think it's a good one to start with. And yeah, it was perfect for October and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It is the 27th of November and the lighting quality is rubbish, but the clocks have just gone back, so I guess we need to get used to this for the next few months. Anyway, I have finished another book today, which is A Stir of Echoes by Richard Matheson. My friend Steph lent this to me when I went to see her in August, and I started it yesterday and I finished it today. It is really short, it's like 250 pages. And on the front it says, the author who influenced me most as a writer was Richard Matheson, and that's blurbed by Stephen King. So that probably gives you a bit of an idea of what this is like. It's really short, so I can't really give much of a synopsis. It's basically about a guy who is hypnotised at a party, and after the hypnosis is over, he starts to hear the thoughts and pick up on the feelings of the people around him. And that is literally all I can say. It's creepy, it's really well paced. It was written in the 50s, and so there are some word uses that wouldn't be acceptable now. So just be aware of that if you're going to pick it up. But overall, I've given it 4 stars. I did enjoy it. It was a nice kind of quick, creepy read for a dark evening. So if that's the kind of thing you're after, and if you like King, I would definitely recommend this.
It is 29th of October and I have finished this beast of a book, Revelation by CJ Sansom, which is the 4th in the Matthew Shardlake series. As you can see, it is chunky. It's 650 pages. Let's hold it so you can see that beautiful cover. And yeah, it was brilliant. Like I said, it's the 4th in a series, so I can't say loads, but it's basically set in Tudor London. We're following Matthew Shardlake, who is a lawyer, and he basically solves mysteries and crimes. He's kind of plays the inspector role before there were like police inspectors. So yeah, it's a series that I really enjoy because I love historical fiction, I love Tudor fiction, but I love that this isn't about Henry VIII and his wives. We do interact a little bit with Henry and his court, and in this one Henry is between wives. He has killed Catherine Howard and he's trying to persuade Catherine Parr to be his 6th and final wife. So we do get a little bit of interaction with the court, but hardly anything. Like, we don't see Henry in this book. We do see Catherine Parr a couple of times, but I just really like that it is Tudor but it's not focused on the court. I also really like that even though it's historical fiction, all language is modern, so it's really easy to follow. The pace is good. I really love Matthew Shardlake as a character. There's only 3 more books after this and I'm going to be really sad when I'm done. I did also order the next book. Is it called Heartstone, I think? Immediately finished this and then literally went straight on my phone onto my Amazon app and ordered the next book because I need more. So yeah, if you like historical fiction and you like mysteries and thrillers, I'd really recommend this. And I'd also recommend it if you only like one of those genres, because if you like historical fiction, it's really good historical fiction. If you like mystery books, it's got a really good mystery to it. So yeah, I would really recommend it. I've given it 4 stars. The pace does lag a tiny bit and I just think it's just the size of it. It probably could have taken out like 50 or 60 pages and it would have been fine. But yeah, highly recommend it. Really enjoyed it. I am kind of glad to have it done. I started it in August when we were away in London because I ran out of books to read. Bought this, stopped at Waterstones and bought this on a whim. But then because it wasn't on my technical TBR, I put it down for other stuff and I've just kind of been dipping back into it once I've finished other TBRs. But I finally finished it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The fact that it's taken me 3 months to read is not a reflection on the book at all. And actually it stood up really well because as soon as I got back to reading it, I was straight back into the story and I knew what was going on. So yeah, would really recommend it. It's a really good one. It's 30th of October and I have just finished Beauty Queens by Libba Bray, and it is one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to. It's absolutely like laugh out loud funny, and the audiobook is read by the author. She does all the voices, it's got music, it's got ads in it. It's just an absolute work of art. Absolutely freaking loved it. The actual story is about a group of American beauty queens who crash land on an island. And it's about their survival, and that's all I'm going to say about that. It's got loads of rep in it. So we've got queer rep, we've got POC rep, we've got disability rep, we've got trans rep in it, we've got discussions around body stuff. Yes, there's a lot going on. Like I said, it is laugh out loud funny. Some of the stuff that the characters say at the start is slightly problematic, but it's done to kind of demonstrate how stupid those people are and how idiotic those viewpoints are, which I thought was done well. And also a lot of the opinions that are expressed at the start get discussed, pulled apart, and get changed by the end of it. So I thought the whole thing was handled really well. Its kind of main message is female empowerment, and it talks a lot about the different ways that it's hard to be female and how females can be oppressed and controlled, and it kind of talks a lot about how like females working together can basically change the world. Is kind of the message. There are also some male characters that come into it, and again I thought that was handled really well. It's definitely YA because there's some like naughty bits in it, but yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Nicole and Harriet both recommended it, and if those two both love a book, I will definitely pick it up, and they were right again. I'm gonna give it 4 stars because I feel like the pace was a little bit slow in the middle. It went a little bit baggy, but overall I thoroughly enjoyed it and I would really recommend it. It's technically 1st of November, but I finished my last read for the month last night, and by the time I finished, it was dark, I was tired, didn't feel like talking to a camera, blah blah blah. And I feel like that's probably going to set the pattern for my wrap-up vlogs for like the next couple of months, because I don't mind posting videos where I've got like bad skin or whatever, but I really don't like posting clips where the lighting's bad. So it may well be that I will be recording clips the following morning if it's dark when I finish a book. So yeah, we're just gonna roll with that. But anyway, the book that I finished was The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I freaking loved this book. I've given it 5 stars. I didn't even mean to read it this month, but I finished my TBR, and then I bought this as part of my payday treat because I saw it kind of cheap on Amazon. Didn't have anything else in particular to read this month, and so I thought I'd pick it up, and man, it's so good. The hype is real. I think I first saw this on Kayla's channel when she talked about it. I think she had an arc, and then Nicole read it and gave it 5 stars. And also Laura from What Everyone Else Is Reading also really enjoyed it. I can't remember what her rating was, but I know that she enjoyed it. And it's just one of those things where I just kept seeing people whose opinion I trust absolutely love it. So I thought I'd give it a go. Unusually for me, I bought the hardback because, as we all know, I'm a bit tight. But this was, I think, like £8 or something on Amazon. So I was like, okay. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. First of all, look at this cover. And it's one of those books where once you've read the book, the cover has more meaning. So that's the front, obviously, and then it continues round onto the back. And it's just lovely. So I should probably give you the storyline, although this has been everywhere, so you've probably heard about it. But basically, we start with a woman who has been a nanny. She's writing from prison. She's writing to a solicitor begging him to help her because she is saying that she's been accused of killing one of her charges and she's innocent and she needs his help. And she then starts telling him the story of how she ended up in this situation. And it's brilliant. I can't say any more than that, obviously, because of spoilers, but it's just got this real slow, creeping tension that builds really gradually, and all these little things happen, and you're not sure if she's losing her mind, or is there something supernatural happening, or is somebody human doing stuff to her, and she doesn't know either, and she's sleep deprived, so that adds an extra layer to it. And all these little things happen. There's a couple of scenes that were so creepy, I almost had to stop reading. At one point I was reading on the sofa and Jack, my cat, just randomly jumped up on my lap and I nearly hit the ceiling because I was so absorbed in what I was reading. It's obviously heavily influenced by The Turn of the Screw, which I read earlier in the year, which is a classic gothic story, which I would really recommend if you haven't read it. It's a really good one. But I also had sort of similar vibes to The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell. Just that kind of like gradual building of creepy layers until you get to the end. I did predict quite early on what was going on. But there were a few twists I didn't see coming, which I really enjoyed. And actually, I didn't mind that I kind of knew what was happening because the writing's so skillful. I just needed to know and couldn't put it down. I read this during the week, but it's one of those that if I'd picked up at the weekend, I would definitely have read it in like 1 or 2 sittings in 24 hours. It was just great. I would really recommend it. Really enjoyed it. And what a great ending to my reading month.
And those are all the books I read in the month of October. It's been a really good month in general, and my reading has been good. As you've seen from those clips, I had some really good, really like cracking reads that I've thoroughly enjoyed. Had a brilliant time buddy reading with Gloria. I'm looking forward to reading The Toll with her and Nicole in December. And yeah, it's just been a good month. So stats wise, I read 13 books in October, which is great. And that totaled 5,193 pages, which is pretty cool. In terms of ratings, I didn't DNF or give any 1 stars. I gave 1 2-star, didn't give any 3-star. I gave 7 4-stars and 5 5-stars. So it's kind of funny. I think about a week before the end of the month, I was complaining on Twitter that I hadn't really read many 5-star reads, and then I suddenly had a run of like 5 stars. So yeah, it's been a really good month. Genre wise, surprisingly, I've read a lot of YA this month. I've read 3 adult contemporary, 4 YA, 2 thrillers, 1 non-fiction, 1 classic, 1 horror and 1 historical. So yeah, I'm reading quite a lot of YA at the moment, which if you'd asked me at the start of the year, I wouldn't have predicted that, but I have really enjoyed what I've read. And then in terms of my favourite book of the month, it has to go to The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware, which you will have seen in the last clip. I've already waffled on about this book, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's definitely gone onto my list of favourite reads of the year, and I would really recommend it. Yeah, it's also, I don't think I said in the last clip, but it's one of those rare thrillers that I know I will reread because I want to go back and look at the clues again now that I know what the answer is. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it, had a great month. Thank you for watching this video if you've made it this far. I'm going to go and reshelve all my books now, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks guys, bye!